Welcome to the 6th installment of the Moving to Asia series. In the previous episode, we visited two corner houses in the Botani Parkland estate in the state of Malacca. If you missed that episode, be sure to catch up. It's best to start from the first episode. And if you're up to date, today I'm taking you to the heart of Kuala Lumpur, where I'll show you around our new apartment located in the Aurum residence estate. It's a low-density complex, which means it has a low building density. In practice, this means fewer apartments on each floor, more living space, and far fewer neighbors behind the wall, which translates to more comfort, peace, and privacy. This is a premium estate, built with quality in mind, not quantity, and you can see it right from the entrance. We chose an apartment in Building B, which has badminton courts, a basketball court, and a swimming pool underneath. On the ground floor of our building, besides convenient shops, there will also be a gymnasium and a fitness center, and around the estate, there's an elegant jogging path. Does it sound like luxury? You probably think it costs millions plus your child's kidney, but it really doesn't. Our apartment, which is 117 square meters, costs less here than a 26 square meter studio in need of renovation in Warsaw. In this episode, I'll show you not only our future apartment, but also other types of apartments available in the new project from the same developer. And to keep things interesting, we'll take a walk around the neighborhood, talk about life in this part of the city, and check if Kuala Lumpur really has that magic. We ended the previous part at the moment when we arrived at our new housing estate, so it would make sense to resume this episode from the same place. I'm just walking to see if there's a way to look at this building from another side. Okay, so I guess this isn't the one, it's going to be the other one on the other side, but from the rented apartment, we should be able to figure out more easily what's where and see how the whole construction process is going. Well, overall, what can I say? It's nice here. It's a very, very good location, a great place. There are schools nearby, so we're planning to live here for half a year and half a year in Ireland. That's why it's good to be able to come here and check everything out for yourself. The fuel here is really cheap and nobody walks anywhere, but if you really wanted to, it's about a 15-minute walk from the neighborhood to an area called Bandar Baru, Sri Petaling. It's a kind of center with numerous restaurants, shops, and service points. It's literally just a bit further, but here we are, we've parked. As for parking, you have to do it using the Cash and Go app and wallet, something like that. I think we'll take a walk here, find something to eat, and our agent said he'll meet us at 2:30. So we've got about an hour to calmly get some food. Actually, it's Sunday, so parking is even free, and we were trying to figure it out here. I even asked the lady at the restaurant how to pay, and she mentioned that app, but I guess because it's Sunday, you don't have to. That minibus, on the other hand, doesn't care about any tickets, couldn't care less, so I guess you don't have to pay for them. It's nice here. It's not too busy. The sun has finally set, so we can take a walk. Generally, as you can probably guess, a lot of people here don't go for walks at all, because why would they? Well, it's just too hot, that's all. So yeah, you can take a short walk once the sun is set. But normally during the day, even a distance of 500 meters, you just drive a car. I kind of forced the crossing, but let them learn to stop, right? The choice of places here is so huge that it's actually overwhelming for me. Naturally, we ended up in a place mainly for locals. On average, people here spend between 1 and 18 zlotys. It looked to us like typical homemade mom's treats. All this Asian food doesn't always suit me. When it comes to treats, that's more like it. But here you can see something with egg and pork. But what I took for myself is just a simple chicken broth. As you can see, there's a selection and the prices for each. You write it down on a little note there. And it's definitely very local and Asian. In a European restaurant, you won't get fresh eggs to crack into your soup, but the coffee is delicious. They definitely have tasty treats. Even the ones with egg are delicious. And I've tried pretty much most of them. This is really awesome. However, now we paid 43.95 for what we ordered. I mentioned that sometimes it's hard for me to find something here, but you have to know that Asian cuisine here and what you have as Asian cuisine anywhere in Europe are completely different dishes, completely different flavors. It's prepared, served, and ready to eat in a totally different way. We're often in these typical local places. Well, you can see for yourselves how it looks, right? Well, tourists basically don't venture here, not often into places like this. They usually eat in hotels or really at some McDonald's or in places designated for tourists. And here, there's usually a lot of bones and everything. You have to pick them out. If you order fish, it's half an hour of picking bones. Chicken, if you order chicken, it's just chopped up with a big cleaver, and you eat it with, there are cartilage pieces, there are bones, all the bones are broken, and you have to pick them out yourself. If you're European, I assume if you're watching this, you probably are, then usually the food comes ready to eat, right? So you're not likely to choke or break your teeth. That's one of the big differences. But even putting that aside, the way it's prepared, you have to pick at it, especially if you're eating with chopsticks. I can use chopsticks, but I'm not an expert at picking out different pieces of meat from something using chopsticks. But then there's also the matter of taste, right? When I tried that broth. And here, let me add that even though I'm expressing a bit of my disappointment, it was mostly caused by the excessive amount of white pepper in the soup I just had. As you probably know, white pepper is made from fully ripe and fermented berries, which gives it that musty aroma. However, the one in the soup was too strong for my taste. I don't know, to me it smells like some old chicken, really unpleasant. It's okay, it turns out it's just some spice, but it stinks so much, it's really off-putting. But I was hungry, so I had to eat something. I don't know. Everything is fresh, everything is okay, but sometimes I just miss some Polish dishes. Well, that's nice, but let's finally get back to the topic of real estate. For many months, we were browsing offers from various developers. We talked to a whole dozen agents, some more helpful, others, let's say, less enthusiastic. We meticulously compared our requirements with what each project actually offered, and I'll tell you one thing. Finding a good agent is really a terrible ordeal, and we ourselves wasted hundreds of hours on, let's be honest, hopeless ones. If you're looking for real estate in Asia yourselves, I'll leave a contact form in the description that might make it easier for you to get started. Getting back to the point, Aurum residents made a huge impression on us. We watched videos sent by the agent showing the model apartment as well as what the whole estate will look like. The video quality is poor and it's shot vertically, but you can see the 7 levels of parking located at the bottom. We will have 3 dedicated spots for our cars, plus of course spaces for visitors. In this video, you can see the swimming pool, the green areas around the estate, and right on the podium itself. You can also see that the basketball and badminton court is covered. That's a very good move in such a sunny and warm region. It's time to meet face to face with our agent. We drove a little further and now we're going to check out the showroom. Okay, let's take a look at the floor plan of the South Tower, the one marked with the letter B. The same layout applies from level 1 all the way up to level 41. However, let's remember that there are 7 levels of parking, so what is the first floor from the podium side will actually be the 8th floor from the other side. We were absolutely sure that we wanted a Type B apartment. It measures 1,260 square feet, which is 117 square meters. The layout is really nice and everything is great, but choosing which side of the building we wanted on kept us up at night and made us talk about it for many, many hours. When is the sun on which side? What kind of view? Whether it's of the National Stadium, or maybe far off to the mountains, or even the center of Kuala Lumpur. It was an extremely difficult decision. In the end, we chose the ones marked here with the number 7. We came to the conclusion that Unit 2 is too close to the busy street. Number 7, on the north side, has a view of the center of Kuala Lumpur, and on the south side, there are green park areas and the National Stadium. Sure, it's 2 to 3 kilometers away, but from the 34th floor, and basically with the parking, effectively from the 42nd floor, you'll be able to see those areas. But, okay, let's zoom in on the plan a bit so you can see what this whole low density, meaning low population density, looks like in this particular example. For an even better understanding of what's what, I'll overlay the plan of the apartment itself on it. Unfortunately, it's a mirror image, but I believe you'll understand which room is which. We share the entrance hallway with only one other, smaller but still charming apartment. Here is Unit 8, Type A. There are 3 elevators in the main hall. 2 are regular, and the one on the left is designated for use by firefighters during emergencies. It has special safety features and operating modes that allow firefighters to safely reach different floors, even when other elevators are shut down or unsafe. We have 2 emergency staircases and 2 more apartments across the hall. That's basically it. Supposedly skyscrapers in a big city, but privacy and space are guaranteed no matter how you look at it. Also notice that in reality, we only share one wall out of 4. 3 bedrooms and the living room balcony face the podium with the pool. The dining room, the 4th bedroom, and the wet kitchen face the south side of the city. And now, since you already know what to expect, it's time to go inside. In the hallway, there's space for a small cabinet, for some clothing, but remember that in this country, the concept of a jacket doesn't really exist. From the hallway, we turn left, crossing the threshold of the main bedroom. I think there are a few people here. Okay, so right after we enter, this is the main bedroom. If I'm not mistaken, there's a little mirror. Hello, hello world. When it comes to the size, it's actually not bad. Here, of course, there are windows because we're in a showroom, so the windows are completely covered. But just imagine the view from the 42nd floor. And in this direction, you'll have a view of downtown Kuala Lumpur. We might even be able to see the 2 towers, the Petronas Towers. Some people might like the finish, others might not at all, and this is just a presentation of the concept for the final apartment. If someone likes this style and wants to move into a finished apartment like this right away, the developer is more than happy to fulfill that wish. Such a complete interior costs only 80,000 ringgit. We're still considering this option, and although we'd like to do everything our own way, what has been presented here actually fits our tastes quite well. However, here, initially it wouldn't be a bedroom, but probably a studio because it's a bit separated from the rest of the house. And the toilet, here you can also see that there will be a drop here and a drop here, so simply lower and lower. If you take a shower, it just doesn't run. It's open like that. Here we have a small window. I haven't told you before about this type of window, but in Malaysia, they're very popular. They're basically always open, kind of clever. Because imagine, the temperature never drops below 20 or 25 all year round, right? Here you can open it, and look, of course there will be the city behind it, there will be these grills. This is a place to put, let's say, 2 air conditioner units, 1, 2, maybe even a 3rd would fit. But let's say you can usually put 2 here by default. And there's also space for a brush or something like that. So you have an opening to the outside from the 42nd floor, something like this. You can't fall out yourself, that's why it's built this way, right? There will be metal bars, simply so the air conditioner can vent hot and cold air, so you can open this window. But if the air conditioner is running, it will be warm here anyway, even warmer. You might think it's a small detail, but in Auntie's house, which we saw in the previous episode, this kind of spot for the external air conditioner units was located almost right next to your head in the bedroom. I criticize that idea a lot. Here, the external unit is located behind the wall from the shower, and of course something like that makes a lot more sense. Any possible vibrations and buzzing won't bother anyone here. You could say that this whole part of the house is like a personal studio, so you have a regular bathroom, but you can also have a small kitchen, and let's say there's space here for some clothes. Everything here is glassed in because this is obviously a showroom. Normally, we probably wouldn't do it like this, right? So it would be self-sufficient. And from this studio, my dear friends, we move here to the living room. Of course, remember that this is just a showroom, so this is only a mock-up of what it will basically look like. You see, what fits in here? Well, it's not particularly huge. A sofa fits here, and you can put a television here as well. Here, I can already imagine a projector fitting in, with a retractable screen in front of the television. What's more, when it comes to the balcony, even though this is the 42nd floor, I actually talked to the guy and he said yes, it's only going to be this high. And you see, there's a view of Kuala Lumpur city center. There's enough space here for some little things. You can put your laundry here. We also talked about laundry. Could we hang those drying racks that are often used above the bathtub, right? Well, that's a brilliant idea. I don't think they have it anywhere else in Europe, maybe only in places like the Czech Republic or Slovakia. In Ireland and the United Kingdom, it's not popular, and you can buy something like that for 35 zlotys on Allegro, just to hang your clothes and pull them up. And they said yes, there are no problems with that. You can also put out your regular laundry, hang it out on a balcony like that. There shouldn't be a problem with that either. Besides, from below, from the 42nd floor, no one will see it anyway. And here you have that station, the monorail one. Meanwhile, this is of course connected further on with the kitchen and the dining room. As I mentioned earlier, from the dining room windows we'll have a view of the south side of the city. So further on there will be an apartment block, and if we look down here, there will be swimming pools, some green areas, so it looks promising. Now let's go over to the wet kitchen. Here is the dry kitchen. You can prepare something here. Here is the island. You can remodel it differently, and here there will be doors again. Of course, you can open the door or have sliding ones, retractable ones. There will also be a view from here of another housing estate and also pools down below. Here it's called something like a wet kitchen, so if you cook more there's an extractor, and then later the extractor goes out through the wall so the smells don't spread throughout the whole apartment. If we're preparing something like a drink, of course you can use this dry kitchen. Of course, no one is forcing us to arrange both kitchens this way. If someone doesn't like spending time cooking, especially in a country where eating out is delicious and cheap, then why have so much kitchen space? Maybe just a small one would be enough, but that's a personal choice. However, we will have air conditioning, and all the air conditioners will be installed exactly in the same places as we see here. I have to admit that even now, as I'm assembling these materials, I like this project and the interior finish more and more. Maybe we'll be tempted to pay extra for a turnkey solution, or at least to finish a few of the rooms like this. From the living room, we enter a hallway leading to 2 bathrooms and 3 more bedrooms. But since we still have the floor plan in front of us, after you've already seen the main bedroom, imagine that many buyers decide to convert it into a rental studio. All you need to do is add another door before the living room, and it's like you have 2 separate apartments. There's already a connection for a sink, a small fridge, a hot plate, and that's it. One for us, the other for rent. On the left, there's a bathroom that's more shared with the living room. Well, is it bigger? Who the hell knows? Maybe it's bigger, maybe it's the same. Also some kind of window. It's nice that it's a window. You get a view of the pools right away. And leaving this bathroom here, we have the living room and everything else. Over there is the second master bedroom, but we'll get to that later. Here is the bedroom, which is called bedroom number 3. And look, what's coolest about this whole apartment is that we have exterior windows everywhere. From every bedroom practically, right? There are exterior windows. Well, actually, yes. From every bedroom there are exterior windows, either on one side or the other. So it's pretty unique in that regard, because most apartments are, of course, designed so that you only have windows on one side. But here, look, all of this, everything that's white, right? Those are windows, and down below you'll be able to see beautiful pools and all sorts of amazing things, right? That's why I thought it would be cool to record this kind of material to show you how you can live, how you can work, at least partly, in Malaysia, where the salaries are similar to what they are in Poland, but you can have completely different living and housing conditions. Of course, when it comes to work, it's not that easy. As you well know, it's hard to find a good job even near your own home. It's even harder so far away, but where there's a will, there's a way. Having your own business or working remotely actually makes it even easier. So from this bedroom number 3, we can see here that you could build some storage for clothes. There's a lot of space here. You could put a television here. And now we're moving on to the last one, but it's not actually the last one I've talked about. This is bedroom number 4. Or actually it's also called a studio, or like an office, a home office. Again, look, we just had a bedroom here, right? With a view of everything. We barely have a living room with a view of everything. The bathroom also with a view. And now we have this room, a study room, or however you want to use it, maybe for a housekeeper. This room is definitely smaller. I don't know how many square meters it is. Here's another photo taken with a wider angle on the phone. I'm moving on to master bedroom number 2, which is located here. It's kind of a little smaller, but reversed, right? Again, of course, you have a view of everything. This is how it looks, just like this. The bathroom is also reversed. Hello world again. But here, a moment ago, I was already looking at this. That after taking a shower, you can also open either this or the whole thing. However, this differs in size. Because look, of course, there will be air conditioning here, right? 2 or 3 units, because from the first, second and third bedrooms. But there's enough space here that, well, of course, aside from the fact that there will be these units, you can drop a bucket with a mop here or whatever you want to throw out, not keep in the house. You can take something like that out. Here too, there are strong barriers so that no one falls out from the 42nd floor. Let's go take another look at this bedroom. Let me add that when you buy an apartment, the floors everywhere, sinks, toilets, and exactly these kinds of showers as well as the boiler are already included as standard. Well, this same bedroom is actually smaller, but who really needs a bigger one anyway, right? Here I have a display television hanging. It looks quite elegant. You could actually put a projector here instead, but there are windows, right? And I don't know, tell me what you think. Oh, and I almost forgot about the second main bedroom, the second master bedroom. Like I said, it's relatively smaller, but there's a catch, because that wall is hackable, which means we can get rid of it completely. The wall with this little office here, this small workspace, you could make it so that the bedroom door would be here. This is a load-bearing wall. But all of this can be removed completely, and you can enlarge the second bedroom with all this space. That's what they said, that maybe someone would want to do it, and indeed maybe someone will actually do something like that. If you don't want a fourth bedroom, this additional relatively small one, then you can get rid of it and make a large bedroom here instead. Alright, but you're probably going to ask how much all of this costs, because as you can see, by my standards, it definitely looks really awesome, and there's no point in hiding it. First of all, I really like having access to sunlight. And here, maybe the camera will adjust now. You'll have light here, and there's light out there on that balcony. And something like this, with everything included, air conditioners and all, costs 868,000 ringgit, which I estimate is about 800,000 zloty, maybe 750,000 zloty. In euros, let's say that's about 200, maybe 170,000 euros. For that kind of money, you wouldn't be able to buy a studio apartment anywhere in Dublin. And here this is in Kuala Lumpur, right? It's a very well-connected location. The cost of buying an apartment is one thing, but many of you are probably wondering how much the rent is here, or rather the maintenance or community fees. Well, the monthly cost at Aurum residence is 0.4 ringgit per square foot. Our apartment has 1,260 square feet, so that translates to 504 ringgit per month, which is about 432 zloty. That amount seems insanely high, especially compared to the houses we looked at in the previous episode. There, for a house with an area of 331 square meters, you pay about 90 zloty per month. Of course, this includes fees for garbage, street lighting, security, the lake, sports fields, and all that other stuff. So why is it 5 times more expensive at Aurum residence for 3 times less space? Well, the fact that the houses we looked at are a bit away from Kuala Lumpur is one thing, but take a look at what's in this neighborhood. Gym, badminton, gymnasium, swimming pool, but that's not all, because this fee also entitles us to use the co-working area. It's a specially designed office space for work, available exclusively to the residents of the neighborhood. It's great for times when you're having renovations and need to focus and work on something important, or when the kids are at home with the babysitter. There's also a music studio in the neighborhood, marked here as number 6. Since there's a swimming pool, there are also restrooms, showers, and changing rooms. There's also a yoga area, a place for grilling, and hammocks for an afternoon nap in the shade. Maintaining all of this costs money, and that's why there are such fees. 432 zlotys a month seems like a lot, but if someone actually goes to the gym, the pool, plays sports, and takes the kids to kick a ball, plus the time lost commuting, it's just crazy. Here, you have all of that literally right under the elevator from your apartment. No traffic jams, 3 parking spaces, security, garbage collection, reception, all of that is included too. The kindergarten and laundry are also located right under the building, but those will require an additional fee. I talked more about the costs of electricity and installing solar panels in the previous video, so you can go back to that. However, I haven't said anything about water yet. At least compared to Europe, it doesn't cost much either. That's why it's absolutely just pennies in this case. So write what you think, whether you would like to move to such a big city, work online for a Polish or Irish company, or any company, or do something on your own, because the cost of living is much, much lower. Oh, my family just arrived. Okay, a little pause, just so we're clear here. That's still an absolutely huge amount of money, and what I said is just my personal observation, because I've been living in Dublin for 18 years, and even though there isn't a single closed, guarded estate here, that would offer its residents a pool under the window, basketball, tennis courts, and a view of the metropolis from the 40th or even 50th floor. Even if something like that existed in this country, in Ireland, it wouldn't cost 175,000 euros like the ones we bought here, but it would easily cost anywhere from 2 to probably 4 million euros. That's why I believe that in the context of the mentioned apartment prices and the lack of comparable amenities, at least for such a small amount of money, Malaysia seems like an exceptionally attractive destination for people who run their own business or for digital nomads. Since the famous illness of 2020, many people have switched to working fully remotely, and often they end up sitting with cold feet all winter in Poland, all year round in Ireland, or in many other European countries, paying huge amounts of money for rent. In such conditions, many people fall into depression and lose their sense of purpose in life. But tell me honestly, wouldn't it be better to live and work in a warm, beautiful country where the food is amazing and with the same job you can afford so much more? Of course, money doesn't buy happiness, but apparently it's better to cry on a yacht, eating strawberries and sipping champagne on a sunny day, than to stew in a cold, dark, and unfortunately expensive apartment. The very fact that we can go out to the beach, watch people surfing and enjoying every moment instantly gives us a completely different outlook on life. After all, who we spend time with and where we are has a huge impact on our well-being. We chose Malaysia because of family, the ease of moving, and the fact that it's such an advanced and not overcrowded country, at least compared to somewhere like Vietnam. However, you would find even lower property prices and better weather in places like Thailand or Bali. A lot also depends on your specific situation, budget, whether you have a job or not, and even your age. Because in Thailand, for example, after the age of 50, you can get a different, very beneficial visa. If, like us, you would also like to change your life for the better, maybe even buy an apartment in this part of Asia, let me remind you that there is a link to the form in the description of the video. This will direct you to the right person who could help with that. However, remote work doesn't exist without the internet, so I'll add that in Malaysia, it's not as cheap as in Poland. Here, I took a photo in the elevator, which shows that for a 1 gigabit fiber connection, you have to pay as much as 180 zlotys per month. In Thailand, you'll pay almost half that amount for the same connection. If you're working for some corporation anyway, doing tasks on a virtual machine that you connect to through a remote desktop, then even 200 megabits will be more than enough, but that's still 80 zlotys per month. Okay, but what about internet for a shorter vacation trip? We shouldn't go in here, it was blocked off, but our agent said we could check it out. These are other apartments that have basically already been sold, but this is number one, a one-bedroom, which was basically the cheapest. Let me show you what it looked like. These other apartments, basically the whole new housing estate, will be built to the south of our building. Fortunately, the view won't be ruined by this, and it might even become more attractive. See for yourselves. From the dining room, we'll have a view of these facilities here, meaning this pool and the other one. There will be some places over there to rinse off, maybe a grill. All of that is downstairs. I think there will be tennis courts here, number 10, and pickleball. Pickleball is popular here. And we'll have a view of that from the other side, from one of the bedrooms and from this bathroom. This neighborhood will also be much smaller, so instead of 7, they only have 3 levels of parking. A specific living room with a kitchen over there, and everyone is there. We'll go into the bedroom in a moment. There's also a little bathroom on the way. A simple little bathroom. If you're a couple, you can definitely take something like this for yourselves. And this is the bedroom. Take a look. I thought it would end here, but it actually continues over there. And it's silly to admit, but a one bedroom like this, just one bedroom, right? In this neighborhood, and actually downstairs in the building, there will be free amenities, you could say, included in the overall maintenance costs, like trash and so on. We have a gym, private for us, for the residents of the building, and these pools are also only for the residents of the building. All of this is secured with all the bells and whistles, and just imagine a one bedroom with a living room. Well, in Poland, I think it's called a 2-bedroom. And it's actually quite big, because the square footage here is substantial. My friends, this costs 380,000 ringgit, which is 80,000 euros. I don't know what you could buy in, for example, Ireland or the United Kingdom for that kind of money. There are still intense discussions going on, because both my brother and my sister are thinking about buying here as well, or maybe in the second phase that's just starting. However, the agent allowed me to enter the double bedroom, so what does it look like? Well, it looks awesome, but I already asked about the price, and it's over 500,000 ringgit, which is 100,000 euros, right? So here on the left is a little bathroom. Here we have, oh, nice, a window. Well, it's blocked, right? Normally there would be a view. Here's a bedroom, 1. And here is the ensuite, which means a little bathroom. Hello? Sorry for the shaky footage, but as you can see, I don't have a gimbal. Maybe I'll get one someday. If you like these kinds of episodes from vacations or from Malaysia, maybe I'll get one someday. And bedroom number 2, this one isn't ensuite. The view seems interesting depending on which floor you choose, right? And of course, like I said, each floor costs an extra 1,000 ringgit. The higher you want to go, but obviously there's no point in going all the way to the attic, right? Here, the windows are covered, but it would also be interesting. Yeah, it's nice, really nice, nothing to complain about. We can walk through the living room again from the other side. If you would like something like this, or if you would want to live in a place like this, in a high-rise, you could say, with a pool and all the amenities like a gym. The bedrooms aren't huge, but you can't say they're cramped either. The dining area with the living room is narrow and very long, but at such a low price, and in such a good location, it will definitely sell out quickly. And you might be thinking, who the hell can even afford apartments like this? Can normal working people living in Malaysia afford it? And yes, they can. Which for me, having been in Ireland for 20 years, is absolutely financially unattainable. It would never be attainable in Poland either. However, as I said, one of my sisters wants to buy an apartment here. That's why we were looking at these apartments. These aren't the ones that have been sold, they're from the second phase. And what did I want to say? My sister works at a window factory. It's some paperwork job. She doesn't have any college degree. She earns just under 4,000 ringgit a month. Her boyfriend works as a manager at that window factory. He makes 10,000 ringgit, so you could say that with his monthly salary, he can buy 5,000 liters of fuel at the gas station. Well, people used to calculate things in terms of fuel. Now it's more about the number of sticks of butter, right? So the rest of the cost of living compared to the salary is just unimaginable to me. And that's why when I was in Malaysia for the first time, it was a culture shock. Yes, it was. But also a financial shock, because I expected that in Europe life would be wonderful, that it's awesome, that we make decent money, and after 35 years of paying off a loan, or 40, we can finally have an apartment of our own. And here, you see, life is different, the reality is different. It's a developing country, the birth rate is positive, so there's a greater chance that when you retire, there will be someone to pay for your pension. All right, I think we have to go. So what? Surprising, isn't it? These apartments aren't for wealthy foreigners, but rather for locals, or possibly for those who want to take advantage of the Malaysia My Second Home program. And here's where you'll be surprised, because our apartment is too small, too cramped, and of too low a standard for a foreign investor, including someone from Poland, to buy it. Of course, if you fall in love with Malaysia and would rather buy than rent, the Malaysia My Second Home program is definitely interesting and would allow you to own a modest apartment like ours. But without this program, the requirement is very simple. When buying a house in Kuala Lumpur, you have to spend 2 million ringgit or more. That's a lot, but for that price, you don't get a cramped 4-bedroom, 117 square meter place. Instead, you get a 200 or 300 square meter penthouse with your own pool and a much higher standard. When buying a house in another state, for example in Malacca, the minimum property value for a foreigner is already 1 million ringgit. In the previous 5th episode, I showed you 2 such houses about an hour and a half from Kuala Lumpur. It's true that the smaller one cost a little over 500, and the bigger one just under 700,000, so Poles without the mentioned program would have to buy something bigger, better, and of a higher standard. We saw something like that, for example, in the neighborhood called Country Villa. There, for just over 1 million, you get 343 square meters of something that you can really call a villa. 5 spacious bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, and a garden, and something like that, just an hour and a half drive from Kuala Lumpur, a Pole can definitely buy. Some of you are probably thinking that these are really nasty boors. How come? Me, a Pole, I can't buy a house like that with 2 bedrooms, rent it out to some poor local working family and rip them off on the rent? After all, huge American funds and even private investors are doing the same thing in many European Union countries. In Poland, entire new housing estates are being sold to foreign investors, and they profit from the hardship of hard-working Poles. Well, the people in power in our country allow this, just lining their own pockets at the expense of the citizens. That's why both the purchase and rental prices of real estate are so outrageously high. And sure, you might not like the fact that if you want to buy property in Malaysia, you're only allowed to purchase luxury villas and beautiful apartments. But think about it. Does that make you feel resentment, or rather admiration and respect for the Malaysian government for not allowing itself to be so corrupted and not selling out to Western capital? Although trillions of dollars for selling out their own citizens is certainly tempting, Malaysia still remains loyal to the people who build this country. The Malaysian government is definitely corrupt to some extent as well, because I'm not saying it's not. Where there is power, there is room for abuse, but apparently this country hasn't sold out as much as those in the Union.
Here, low-income families can afford to buy their own house with 3 bedrooms and a garden.
And under my previous video, there were comments saying that Malaysia still has a high level of illiteracy. Sure, but that's mainly because it's still a developing country. Younger people here are educated, but the older ones didn't have access to such advanced and widespread education yet, especially in East Malaysia, but that doesn't mean they would automatically be bad people. It's sad, yes, but people without higher education can still afford a house and a decent life in this country, so what does that say? Especially since highly educated and hardworking Poles at the same time can't even afford their own place. A Pole who can read and write, or even has higher education, wouldn't work for minimum wage in such a country. In Poland, there's no shortage of people with master's degrees working at the registers in Biedronka, and let's not forget that Biedronka is Portuguese owned, so the profits made in Poland don't stay in our country. They actually contribute to the development of Portugal. In one of the previous videos, I also talked a lot about the automotive industry in Malaysia. After all, they have their own car brands which aren't ugly at all, not bad at all, and the profits made in the country stay in that same country. See, it is possible. Thanks to such an economy, everyone lives better. Of course, within the borders of that particular country. In Poland, you can't have anything of your own, you have to pay others. The situation with the airport is also some kind of parody. You probably know about many other scams where Poland only loses out. Pause and write about them in the comments. Anyway, I mentioned earlier that my beloved sister and her boyfriend can afford to buy what, at least by our standards, is quite a luxurious apartment in a complex with a pool, gym, and tennis courts. But for heaven's sake, they both work in a window factory in a small town in the state of Malacca. Let this fact really resonate in your imagination, and if you agree with me that this is something we should be talking about openly, then help me spread this material further. Every like, every comment, and every share is truly a huge help in fighting the algorithm, because those who tell it like it is often have obstacles thrown in their way. This series of my travel materials aims to show you that it's possible to live better, that it can be done, but unfortunately, it's not in the interest of those who exploit us. That's why I truly, absolutely sincerely ask for thoughtful, relevant comments, and for you to send the link to this video to all your friends, letting them know that it's worth keeping an open mind to change. However, this is not the end of our adventures. If you would like to go to Malaysia, to Kuala Lumpur, to see what this city looks like with your own eyes, then in part 7, I will show you a luxury apartment in a skyscraper that we rented right next to the construction site of both Aurum residence complexes. There we will talk more about all these projects, and then with my beloved's parents, we will go to Cameron Highlands. It's the Malaysian equivalent of Zakopane, where whole families with kids go during holidays and time off from work. Unlike the rest of Malaysia, where temperatures often exceed 30 degrees Celsius, in Cameron Highlands, thanks to its elevation from 1,100 to 1,800 meters above sea level, there is a moderate climate with average temperatures between 18 and 25 degrees Celsius, but more about that in the next one. Remember to subscribe, but since that doesn't guarantee you'll get notifications about the next video, I highly recommend bookmarking the website www.techmaniaxd.pl in your browser. Thank you very much for watching this video. I would also like to thank the wonderful patrons who support my channel. In particular, I want to thank Rafał, Paweł, Mirek, Michal, Christian, Okotecki, and Cyberlolik, who have been supporting the channel for a long time and have had a huge impact on its development.